we are here to talk about brand. And I always start these things. I'm glad there's a bunch of new people here because people who have seen this before, you know what I'm about to do. So I'm going to ask you to let the others answer. And I want to start by asking you a question, which is, what do you think brand is? Someone comes to you and says, you need to have a brand. What's the first thing that comes to mind? So just shout an answer. We'll just do maybe 3 or 4 of these. So image?
Story.
Story, okay. Reception? Perception. Excellent. One more, anyone?
Identifiable.
Identifiable, great. All right, thank you very much. Those are all really good answers, and you are all correct. And that's the problem. Everyone has sort of a different idea of what brand really is. And so it gets kind of muddy. No one's ever clarified what really is a brand. So I want to offer you one. I want to offer you a definition of brand. It's a reframing of brand that I think is going to be more useful, not only for your understanding of what brand is, but for how to create one for yourself. And it's this. Your brand is what your customer thinks of you. And that's it. It's all brand has ever been. Your brand actually lives in the mind of your customer, not in your business. And it's made up of the sum total of their experience with your business. So this means that whatever your customer thinks you are, well, that's what you are. That is your brand. And if you need a good example of this, just look at what happened to United Airlines recently, where the audience is now defining what that brand means, and it's not going very well from them, right? So what this means is that if you have a business, and I presume since we're all here, we all have some sort of business we're working on, that if you have a business, you have a brand, whether you're working on it or not, right? If you have a customer, that means you actually have a brand. Now, I want you to start taking control of your brand. That's actually why I'm here. That's my purpose for talking with you today, is to help you get control of your brand. Because if you are not in control of your brand, that means your audience is. You only get one or the other option, all right? So you're going to have more success when you take control of your brand. So what I'm going to show you is a model of how brand works in the mind of your customer. I'm talking about the actual neurology that customers use when they are introduced to your brand. And then I'm going to share with you some tools that target this neurology that you can use to start taking control and help your customers see your brand the same way that you do, so you find that alignment together. All right, sound good?
Yep.
Yes. What you want to learn? Fantastic, because that's what I'm going to show you. So before we begin, I want to share a little bit about myself so you know where I'm coming from. My name is Michael Leibowitz, and my areas of experience are in 2 distinct fields. They are brand strategy / product development, which I've been doing for about 20 years or so. The other is in behavioral neurology, which I've been studying and teaching for a little over 8 years. And what I'm going to share with you is, actually what I'm going to do, I combine those 2 experiences into a new understanding of how the neurology behind successful brands. Okay? So now I teach people like yourselves and business owners how to create a meaningful brand that can sell more and create a more loyal audience, that by targeting the way our brain is actually wired to create trust, to engage, and to ultimately buy, which is what we're all here for, which is what we want. So let's get into it. I'm going to show you the goods, and I'm going to show you by starting with the bad. And here is the mistake that almost every business owner makes. And I'm not talking just small entrepreneurs. I see the big multinationals making the same mistake as well. It's this: focusing way too much attention on features and benefits. Way too much attention right there. Throw in some pain while we're at it, right? Because we've all heard somewhere, somehow, that you have to identify the customer's pain. Okay. So I understand that what I'm saying runs a little bit counter to the conventional wisdom out there, but stick with me, because I think by the end you'll realize that I'm right and they're all wrong. So what's the big problem with focusing a lot of almost all of our attention on communicating features, benefits, problems, and pain? Well, what happens when someone comes along with similar features and benefits as you do, solving the same pain, otherwise known as competition, right? So when you're focusing all your communication on these elements, how is someone supposed to look at what you're offering When from this perspective, it's virtually identical to the one next to you, and the one next to that, and the one after that. How are they supposed to look at you and say yes to you, to what you are offering, rather than someone else? Now, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you shouldn't be communicating these things, okay? They are actually critically important. But what I am saying is that when it comes to this decision, these actually target the wrong part of the brain. Your customer is actually making another decision when they are deciding to buy from you over someone else. And this decision has far more influence over which way that decision goes than communicating features and benefits, problems, and pain. Thing is, it's a secret decision. It's happening behind the scenes. They're not even aware they're making it, and it happens just lightning fast. Turns out your brand is the only asset you have that can influence that decision. And to understand what's going on, we actually have to look at an unlikely source. These gazelle. Turns out what's happening in the world of these gazelle is key to understanding what's happening in the mind of your customer when they are looking at your brand. Let's go deeper. Here's the human brain. We are going to divide the human brain into two parts, the human part and the critter part. Now, the human brain does pretty much what you expect a human brain to be doing. This is where we do logic and reason. We do higher level thinking like time, things like that. But for what we're talking about here, the most important thing to understand about the human brain is that this is where we hold our identity, our sense of who we are in the world and in our community. So that's the human brain. Then we have the critter brain. And this is where the real action is. Okay? Critter brain is where we do basic survival. We do the 4 F's in the critter brain. That's fight, flight, freeze, and reproduction. And in the critter brain, we are seeking pure safety. This part of your brain, since pretty much you were born, has been asking itself one question. It doesn't actually have language. Language is actually up in the human brain. But if it did, the question would sound like this: am I dead? And if the answer is no, and we presume if we're still around, the answer is no, critter brain tells the rest of the brain, keep doing that, whatever it is, it keeps us alive. And one of the primary ways the critter brain is working very, very hard to keep you alive is to make sure that you are with like kind. People and things that are like ourselves. Because to this part of the brain, I don't want me to die. Presumably then, things like me don't want me to die. Things want to keep me safe. And anything that isn't like kind is a potential threat to survival. To this part of the brain, this is some very, very old neurology that we're operating under. Anything that isn't like kind is a potential threat to survival. And this drive to be with like kind is so powerful that the critter brain can actually override all other decision making being made in the rest of the brain. And it can do this, it does this really easily because these two parts of the brain do not operate at the same speed. Now, we've all heard some version of this that in the world of marketing or sales, that you have 5 seconds to capture your customer's attention. Several decades ago, some people researched this, and they discovered no matter how long someone said they took to make a decision, they boiled it down, it's like, yeah, the decision was actually made in about 5 seconds. And this is generally true. And we experience that in our own lives, of course. I don't know how many times you've ever landed on a website and almost immediately clicked away. Didn't even read the content, right? There's something about it, nope, not for me, I'm out of here. And the same thing is going on when you see a car that you love, and it's almost this instantaneous response, right? Where he's like, oh, wow, I like that. There was no really thinking going on there, it was just a response. So 5 seconds is when we generally decide one way or the other. Well, what they didn't know that we do know now is that you actually have far less time than that, because the mechanism really works like this. Your critter brain made the decision in about half a second. And the human brain took the other 4.5 seconds merely justifying the decision the critter brain has already made. It just tells you a story on top of it to justify why you went that way. So what this means is the critter brain is in charge of every decision you have ever made, particularly any decision to buy. The critter brain is driving the bus. And at its core, that decision is based on this lightning quick calculation of safe versus not safe. Safe equals a buy, not safe equals no sale. It's only when the critter brain gives a signal, gives a safe, does the rest of the brain know it's okay to engage with your business and then ultimately buy. This is the gatekeeper step. Actually, this is the neurology of trust right here. But this is the gatekeeper step that every human being must go through. You must satisfy this condition in order to hope to have any kind of sale whatsoever. No exceptions. So how do we do it? How do you get up here into the safe zone with your business, with what you are communicating to your customers? The answer actually lies upstairs in the human brain. It's our identity, our sense of who we are. And the mechanism works like this. We have the world outside. This is where your business lives from your customer's perspective. At the world outside, we take that in as a sensory experience. Okay? So whatever you are communicating, we take it in as a sensory experience. The critter brain looks at that and then looks upstairs to your identity and is just saying, is this a match? Is this like kind? And we do this with everything. Is this like kind? Is this like kind? Is this like kind? And whichever way that decision falls, the human brain just adds on a rationalization to make it true on a conscious level. And then we output into behavior and communication. And in this case, the behavior we want is the decision to buy. And you have, as a business owner, you have control of only one part of this. It's right here, sensory experience. It's the only piece you have control over. So now that you know the mechanism, identity and like kind, every decision starts with this relationship, identity and like kind. They have to make a match. So there's the mechanism. And here's if you get one thing out of this is what I want you to understand. This is the big deal. Your features and benefits are logical arguments. They only speak to the human brain. And as you now know, that's not the part of the brain that's making the decision, is it? It comes too late in the process. You need to feed the critter brain. And your brand is the only thing you have that actually speaks to the critter brain. And it's not like a chicken and egg thing. What we call brand just happens to be the pieces of sensory input that the critter brain is looking for to make this decision. Over time, people that call themselves branding experts have noticed what works, just by trying things, by intuiting it. And we call those things brand. Just so happens they are the same thing that the critter brain is looking for. Okay? So we have to have this going on. You can't make that sale unless you feed the critter brain. So what that means is, in addition to communicating your features and benefits, which you definitely should be doing, in addition to that, you must also communicate. So features and benefits are what your product or service does, right? You must also communicate who your product or service is. Okay? Businesses that communicate a clear and distinct brand identity feed the critter brain the information it needs to make that match. They sell more, create a more loyal audience, find more customers when you have a clearly communicated brand identity. And those that don't, create a maybe. Here's how that works. When you make a match, you're going to get the sale and loyalty. This is how loyalty works. When the critter brain finds that match, that identity level match, why go anywhere else? That is a potential threat to survival because it's unknown. This is how loyalty works. This is why people who own Apple will never change over to Samsung, no matter how many features or benefits Samsung produces. They found that critter brain level zone of safety. So that's how loyalty works. Most businesses, however, are creating a maybe. This is an unclear brand identity. And with a maybe, you might get the sale. What's happening is when you have an unclear brand identity, you're not really giving your customer's critter brain the high-quality information it needs, the high-quality brand pieces it needs. So what the customer does is they fill in the rest of the story based on their own life experience. You have no control when that happens, and you don't know what they're filling in because everyone is different, right? So maybe they'll fill in with stuff, like, and what they're filling is what you mean to them. So maybe they fill in something that matches their identity, and you get a sale. Great, good job. But most often than not, they will not be filling in the right components. They'll get that no match and go, you know what, not for me. Or if it's a low value item for them, like the need for this, whatever it is you're selling is kind of low value, what will happen is the creator brain will just go, you know what, screw it, I'm not even going to take the time. I'm out of here. So you might get the sale, but you will not get loyalty. They will not become a repeat customer, or at least you can't count on it. Because there is no downside to switching somewhere else. They're giving them the competition is giving the same low level of quality information, the brand identity, critter brain level match. So there's no downside to going, you know what? No less of a threat over there. Give it a shot. Maybe it works. Maybe it's better. And then no match equals no sale. Not ever, 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 won't ever happen. Stop marketing and trying to sell to those people. Because you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money. And when you yourself are very clear on your brand identity, you'll know who those people are. You can really focus your marketing efforts and your sales efforts. So, belief, meaning, belonging, and uniqueness are the 4 pieces of a good brand identity. We do a lot more when we meet people. It takes a lot more to make a like-kind match for people. But as far as the business goes, this works just fine. I'm going to go through each one of them, so give you an example of each one. So belief. What do you value? That's the core question you need to answer. And there's a whole methodology and a process to get there, but essentially, this is what you want to answer. Here's a great example, just so you have some context of what one looks like. TED. Ideas worth spreading is a fantastic belief-level communication. The belief that ideas have power and they need to be spread out there to exercise that power. And anyone who shares the same or even a similar belief will look at TED, the critter brain lights up and says, like kind, and that is the type of person who will consume this content and love it, tell their friends about it. Because remember, we tend to stick around like kind, don't we? I mean, think of all the people in your life who are your friends, how similar you are to them, and all the moments in your world where you met someone, you're like, you get that feeling, I don't know about that person. That was your critter brain going, not a match, get out of here. We might die. Intellectually, we know we're not, but the critter brain thinks that's why you have those feelings. Get the hell out. Same thing happens with your business. When someone sees your business and you're not communicating a clear and distinct belief, they'll fill in with whatever they got going on. So anyone who doesn't share this belief will look at TED. Critter brain says, no way. Human brain adds a story on top of it, and they start tweeting, oh, what a bunch of pretentious bullshit. Okay, so that's how the whole thing works. All right, so that's belief. Meaning, why is that important? And this is reflecting on belief. Okay, why is that belief important? Meaning gives belief context. So here's a great one. Tom's Shoes. You guys familiar with this brand? Most people are, yeah. They make rather unremarkable shoes. Right? They're just shoes. They're not magic shoes. They don't do anything special. But they came into a very crowded marketplace. Shoes is very tough. Fashion in general is extremely tough to get into. But they created a very solid brand and a really good going concern by attaching their brand to the meaning. In fact, they operationalized the meaning. When you buy a pair of Tom's shoes, as you know, someone somewhere else who doesn't have shoes gets a pair. They give them a pair. So how this works in the brain? Anyone who holds as one of their own values, that value, the meaning of helping someone somewhere else, looks at Tom's Shoes in this crowded marketplace and says, that's the one for me. I want to participate in that. Critter brain just said like kind. They told a story to themselves why that matters. Doesn't matter. Half a second, the critter brain saw that and goes, yes, that's us. So that's meaning. Belonging. With whom do you fit? Another way to ask this is, what are the traits of people who share that same belief and meaning? Now, belonging, when you discover your belonging group, this is one of my favorite ones actually. This will narrow your marketing so well. Belonging will tell you who to market to. Here's a great one. Oopsie, wrong way. Chicken Soup for the Soul. They are very, very clear on their belonging group. And if you look at their content, you might think that it's a woman between this age and that, has this income between this and that. Those are demographics. Anyone who tells you that you need to define your audience by their demographics, run the other way. They don't know what they're talking about. Because demographics are logical arguments. They only work on the human brain. What you want to find are belonging traits. So here's a great example. These guys, their belonging traits are this. They are a person who is compassionate, likes to learn new things, is empathetic, and open to new ideas. It's a great belonging group description. And the way you use this is now, Chicken Soup for the Soul, they can just ask themselves, where do we find people that like to feel inspired? Make a list, brainstorm. That list, because again, we tend to find like kind. When you ask yourself, when you ask your team, where are we likely to find people that share our same belonging? Guess what? They're also highly likely to share the rest of your brand identity. So now you can just ask yourself, where do we find those people? And go market there. And you'll find some are better fertile ground than others, but still you're being strategic with this decision. You're not wasting your time and your money doing a shotgun approach, right? Hoping someone will come along. So that's how belonging works. Uniqueness. What unique experience do you offer? This is very key. Uniqueness is often misunderstood. We often think that it is a unique feature or benefit, like we're the only ones who have this, or we have this patented process that. And those are great, good things to have. Okay, good on you. But as far as making this decision, that's not what the critter brain is looking for. Again, those are logical arguments. Critter brain, though, loves an experience. It's looking for that identity match. What kind of experiences do I want to have in my life? When it sees your business offers, in the context of your business, that experience, there's that identity match. And here is the best one I've seen to date. This one is just fabulous. Method. When Method launched, they launched in that bottle over there on your far right. And they launched with only one product. It was dish soap. And at the time, and maybe even currently, dish soap is a pretty boring category. And when they launched, it was a boring category dominated by 3 of the largest multinationals on the planet. Okay? I mean, Procter & Gamble, Colgate, Palmolive, and Unilever. I mean, dominated every single distribution channel worldwide. But these guys came in, took market share, and built a nationwide brand, very popular brand, based on their brand experience alone. And it wasn't even a cleaning experience. Nowhere on their packaging did it say anything about how well their product cleans or what the ingredients are. They came into dish soap with a home decor experience. They said, finally, a dish soap that you can feel good about leaving out on the counter in your beautiful home. Bunch of critter brains lit up and said, hells yeah, I want some of that. They built an entire brand around it, just on uniqueness alone. So, in general, here's how you can operationalize a lot of this stuff, okay? Belief and meaning are great filters for what you say to your customer. Your belonging will help you filter out where to find them. And your uniqueness will help you figure out how to differentiate from the competition. Now, ideally, you're going to want to communicate all of these. You don't have to have them all dialed to 11 in everything you do, okay? You can highlight one over the other depending on the communication, the context. But you have to be clear on each one of these. So belief, meaning, belonging, and uniqueness. Give you guys a moment. All right, so let's wrap it up. We are always looking for like kind. No exceptions, no matter what. This is hardwired in us. We are always, always, always looking for like kind. When it comes to your business, the like kind your customer is looking for is in the form of a brand identity. When that equals safe, you will get the sale. And only when that equals safe. And we create a brand identity by being very, very clear on our belief, meaning, belonging, and uniqueness. All right, guys, I've been Michael Leibowitz. I just want to let you know this is the website. Go check it out. Scroll through, enjoy it, lots of good information there. At the end of the website, I have an ebook, The Neurology of Yes. Notice all of you are taking notes. That's great. If you missed anything, don't worry about it. It's all there.